Hello, BookTube. In an effort to keep our book hauls, our mail hauls, under some semblance of control, I thought I would just pounce on this early morning mail haul, which is just 2 packages. That's all it is, 2 packages. I figure we can get through that in 10 minutes. And that'll be that. Although, looking back at some old videos of mine, trying desperately, as always, to figure out why anyone watches this channel, I noticed how many, before I realized that you could certify your channel and thereby be given the ability to make much longer videos, all my videos were short. It's amazing to me to go back to a tag from 2016 to 2017 and see me getting it all, cramming it into 10 minutes. Do you want this package, Bean? You kind of do. If you really wanted it, you'd jump for it. No? Your fans want to see you. There you are. Here, take that and destroy it. And speaking of looking back on old videos, it occurred to me the other day, I said sooner or later we're going to hit 2,000 videos on this channel, which is, I think a BookTube milestone. I don't think any of the BookTubers ever done 2,000 videos. And a few people pointed out to me that has long since happened. We shot right past 2,000 videos without even noticing. So I wonder what you want to do. Do you want to celebrate 2,000 videos? The standard narcissistic thing that BookTubers do is to have a Q&A. It's been a long time since I had a Q&A on this channel. A lot of people are here. Hundreds of people are here who weren't here before. Do you want to have a Q&A? A 2,000 video Q&A? It's kind of grotesque, but if you do, let me know, and I'll make a separate video announcing it, and then all the questions can collect there. But anyway, what have we got here? Oh, okay. All right, this is an April release. I've already read it. It's fantastic. This is a finished copy of Mark Honigbaum's The Pandemic Century. 100 years of panic, hysteria, and hubris. And the hubris really comes through in the last third of this book, when the author's talking about how complacent we are today about potential pandemics. But he goes through the whole. Well, let me read you here. Each of us carries a viral lineage inside our DNA, encoded in the 1 to 2% of genetic data inherited from our earliest Neanderthal ancestors. Is the key to our continued survival in the face of thousands of infectious pathogens. Yet despite our biological defenses and a century of medical progress, viral and bacterial disasters continue to take us by surprise, incite panic, and dominate news coverage. Coinciding with the centennial of the end of the 1918 Spanish influenza epidemic, which killed more people than the war did, this book by medical historian Mark Honigbaum examines the last 100 years of infectious diseases and fast-spreading outbreaks, from polio and Legionnaire's disease to HIV/AIDS and Ebola, from the Spanish flu to the 1924 outbreak of pneumonic plague in Los Angeles to the 1930 parrot fever pandemic, through to the more recent SARS, Ebola, and Zika epidemics. The last 100 years have been marked by a succession of unanticipated pandemic alarms, like man-eating sharks. When am I going to get a book on man-eating sharks? Hasn't been one in forever. Predatory pathogens are always present in nature, waiting to strike. When one is seemingly vanquished, others appear in its place. And this is just thrilling. I've read a lot of books. Of course, I read every book on the Spanish flu of 1918, and I reviewed quite a few of them. In my life, I've reviewed probably 4 books on that subject. I know it fairly well, and I know a lot of these others fairly well, too, because I read all sorts of books on pandemics and stuff like that, from The Coming Plague all the way to the 2 books like this last year. They're always fascinating. This one is done in an extremely lively way, and all of them, whether they want to or not, can't help but raise a specter in your mind of what would happen if one of these pathogens hits the jackpot. They're constantly adapting, and they can adapt without evolution. They adapt by direct gene transfer. Some of them do. And what happens if the wrong combination of pathogens adapts in just the right way to be medicine resistant, airborne, instantly contagious? The potentials are just horrifying. Just absolutely horrifying. And this book is not a scare fest. It's not meant to make you, hide inside. But it is made to make you think of such things, and it really does a good job. This is a really good example of popular science writing. So I'm glad to have a finished copy. That's great. I might even reread it. And then we've got the second one, and then we'll be done. There's 2 book mail hauls. We're going to try and get done in a nice, expeditious way. Oh, fantastic. Oh, great. Okay, great. This, I didn't think I was going to get a finished copy of this. This is from Columbia University Press. It is a winner of a book. If it's a subject that interests you, it's done really well. You're going to love this book. It's by David Cay Johnston. That is not to be confused. That is not to be confused with the great Trump scourge, David Cay Johnston, the author of It's Even Worse Than You Think. The other David Cay Johnston is like a clean and presentable version of Steve, and he has written indispensable books on the U.S. financial system and on Donald Trump. And if the book fairies grant me my #1 wish, it will be that he will write a gigantic book about the Trump presidency. No one understands Trump better, but this is not him. This is a different guy. And this book is called Being Gay, or Buying Gay: How Physique Entrepreneurs Sparked a Movement. And one of the key venues by which they did was actually called Physique Magazine. Let's just to dispel. This is our David Cay Johnston, which is my David Cay Johnston several hundred steak dinners ago. So they're not the same person. Just have a very similar name. But this is a fantastic bit of cultural history. In 1951. A new type of publication appeared on newsstands, the Physique magazine produced by and for gay men. 1951, if you went to your newsstand and you were gay, you knew exactly what you wanted to look like, what you wanted to look at. You could not find it. There was no niche market. You were still considered a medical condition. And definitely a criminal condition. It had to be done under false colors, or it couldn't be done at all. So you were either reduced to buying mainstream magazines and just staring at the ads for men's shirts or men's underwear, or you could find something a little more targeted, as long as it was being very careful. For many men growing up in the 1950s and 60s, these magazines and their images and illustrations of nearly naked men, as well as articles, letters from readers, and advertisements, served as an invitation into gay culture, and I would argue also the beginnings of gay culture. Not just an invitation to something that already existed, but staking out the ground and building up the tenor of something that didn't yet exist. The publishers behind them were part of a wider world of physique entrepreneurs, men as well as women who ran photography studios, mail order catalogs, pen pal services, book clubs, and niche advertising for gay audiences. Such businesses have often been seen as peripheral to the gay political movement, and in this book, the author shows how gay commerce was not a byproduct, but rather an important catalyst for the gay rights movement. And I know you might hear that and you might think, okay, that sounds like a little bit of author overreach, but he works it. He does it perfectly well. This is just an important book. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So that is great. We have 2 works of nonfiction here that have both come out in one comes out in mid-March. This is mid-March. This should probably be in your bookstores already. And the Pandemic Century comes out early in the next month. 2 general nonfiction works that I can wholeheartedly recommend. Both of them. That doesn't always happen. These are both fantastic books, provided they're in your area of interest. Although when it comes to the Pandemic Century, it had better be in your area of interest. If it isn't now, it will be in 10 years. These pathogens are crossing species barriers all the time, and the thing that used to protect humans from such pathogens was remoteness. And there isn't any remoteness anymore. and the easiest way, if a pathogen has any inclination to cross a species barrier and infect a human, the easiest way for it to do that will be if a human kills and eats the host of that pathogen. And the trade in bushmeat, if you don't know what bushmeat is, Google it. The trade in bushmeat is skyrocketing. People are eating things that they never even thought of eating before. And they're going into all sorts of nooks and crannies to find those things. That's how you get an opportunistic pathogen for which medical science is simply not prepared. So I recommend both of these books. One has an optimistic upturn. Buying Gay is a perfect illustration of a whole group of people forced to live in shadows, forced to live vicariously, by code. So a 20-year-old gay man in America today who thinks that he is a hunted, persecuted minority class really needs to read this book and get a slightly broader perspective that you know, things, it isn't quite Torquemada's Spanish Inquisition in 2019. Once upon a time, in any state in the Union except Massachusetts, you could have been arrested, electroshocked, put in jail, simply for being who you are, simply for being attracted to the people you are. And there weren't any fewer people in the 1950s who felt that way than now. They just had to, the whole apparatus of the state was against them. So they had to sublimate it somewhere, somehow. And this is a fascinating book about that. And it has an obviously built-in optimistic upturn, which is that it isn't like that anymore. There's a whole industry that caters to gay people. Cruises, food lines, clothing designs, books of all kinds, popular entertainment of all kinds. So this has a kind of built-in optimistic thread to it, and well, the author here does a valiant job of painting a portrait of the community of epidemic fighters, spotters and fighters, epidemiologists who are right on the front lines. He paints a wonderful portrait of a lot of those people. But the book still leaves you with the impression that when the next epidemic 2x4 comes along, and as that cover design, that cover copy made clear, we get them regularly. It isn't that the last one was 100 years ago in the Spanish flu. The last huge one was AIDS, and it's ongoing. You get the sense, by the time you're in the closing part of this book, you get the sense that it's only a matter of very short time until such a thing happens again. And humanity is caught off guard. But one way or another, 2 nonfiction books and a quick mail haul. I recommend both of them. Now I'm going to clean up after Babine. But I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.